Awesome. Okay. This will be my first time sharing, well, giving a lead. Um, but yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to share my history and story for how I got here, what things were like, and what things are like now. Let's see. So I guess I'll start with my childhood. So I was born to an extremely religious family in Las Vegas, Nevada. My parents are, well, my father is still Mormon, my mother is not, but at the time my parents were Mormon. And so if you know anything about that, Mormons have this theology or practice called the Words of Wisdom, which doesn't allow for drinking coffee or smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or any kind of way of changing your mind at all. So, or any sort of addiction. Addiction was a huge thing that we talked about a lot all the time, just in church and in our community a lot, and how it's the way that it takes away the will or the free will of a person. And that's the greatest thing you could take away from yourself. Anyway, so I was raised Mormon, and for the most part, I had a really awesome childhood when I was at home. I hated being in school. Also, we moved from, when I was 2 years old, we moved from Las Vegas, Nevada to Paducah, Kentucky, which is in the boonies, Kentucky swampland. And my parents decided to move us from Nevada because they didn't think that it would be a very good influence or a great place for us to learn good family values. So we moved to Kentucky, and my dad's an engineer, and my mom is just super smart, awesome person. And my family was really great, but I hated being in school because the kids in school were so disruptive and they would pick on me a lot. And I got picked on a lot for my religion because I was the only Mormon kid at school. And for that reason, I went even harder into the religion. So I was a huge firm believer of this particular eccentric religion. And it was a huge part of my identity. So when I was a kid, I was always overcome with this sense of wonder and awe at everything in the world. And then as I got older and puberty and things change and things become more mundane and terrible, and school was especially awful when everyone else started to also go through puberty. But I always had this sense of not fitting in, for one, because of my being Mormon in a solid Baptist community, and then also being just feeling different and like I couldn't fit with people. And sometimes even with my family, I felt like there this keen sense of needing to keep secrets and keeping things private because it went against this very strict indoctrination that I grew up with. And so when I was about, I guess when I was like around 12, I started really getting into the Beatles and started to really fantasize LSD and using substance as a way to leave this mundanity and like reattain this like childhood wonder that I had once had and then I didn't have anymore. And yeah, so that's kind of where it started with me, even though I knew that I had this like thorough sense of like, oh, alcohol and drugs are bad, but I still would do acid. And that's kind of where that allowance of me thinking that it would be okay for me to do these things that were so opposed in my religion. So let's see. And I think really, I didn't have my first alcohol like beverage until I was 17. I was about to turn 18, and I was 17 in a hotel room at a furry convention, and that was my first alcoholic beverage. And it wasn't like a spectacular experience or anything like that, but it was it was just like this wave, like this camaraderie, and it's like, oh, I'm not really supposed to be having this, but I'm having it, and just feeling like I was a part of this world. And this was also when I left my religion. This was around the same time that I had left that religion. I lost my worldview. I felt completely like lost, and like I didn't understand why everything that was so just set out for me just wasn't anymore. And so I uh, was just feeling lost, and then I kind of like found this security in the queer community, and a lot of the queer community also engages in substance abuse, unfortunately. So I started drinking around like when I started going to college, but that never really became an issue until later on. I was able to just occasionally drink it and not be a big deal. And then, and I'm going to talk about some outside issues, but really my biggest problem was weed and smoking marijuana. And at first it wasn't that bad. Like I could just smoke once a week and that would be it. But then later on it got to the point where I had to have it all the time, and I had to constantly be high to some degree. Like I would work only jobs that I knew where I could get high on the job. And it was, I mean, I was very selfish. And it just kept, it would get bad. And then I would like I knew I had a problem because I went to art school and I was able to like skate by because I didn't have to write papers and read a whole lot at that time. But I was able to like graduate and it was fine. But I know that my art certainly suffered because I would get these ideas, but then I would put weed and substances and changing the way I felt before doing the work that I needed to do, or focusing on more important things, or feeling like my creativity was somehow just trapped in whether or not I was high or drunk. Because I would drink when I didn't have weed, or I would drink and smoke, and just it was so much better. And let's see, so I had a person that I considered to be a really close friend that I felt like understood me and connected with me really well. And part of our friendship was just getting fucked up together all the time. And then that person turns out was a serial molester of people in our community. And that totally just, I mean, they definitely perpetuated if I hadn't been an addict before that, I definitely became one after that relationship with that person. And that really like just filled me with a sense of guilt and pain that I couldn't ever escape from. So I would use as a way to escape from those thoughts and feelings. And let's see. And so this was going on for a while. Like I had graduated from college and I wasn't really going anywhere in my life. And the only solace I would have would be just falling into a stupor, like this hazy stupor where I could barely remember what the end of my night was. Like just like the end of my night is a haze, and then I would just fall asleep. And I would watch Trailer Park Boys or whatever. And it was, which also I can't watch Trailer Park Boys now because it's a huge trigger for me. But yeah, I was just really, I felt really pathetic and stuck in this cycle that I couldn't get myself out of. And I still had this like underlying feeling because of my conditioning when I was a child that I should not exist without, well, I should be able to exist without a substance like keeping me like present in some way. And I I still felt that guilt about this person, this particular friend. And I mean, ex-friend. But let's see. And then I was working this job that was at a point was like really great. And there are people that everyone there was like stoners, and they all drank and stuff, and like they would all smoke on the job, and it was really great and for the time. And then because I would just vape in the bathroom and stuff, and it was fine. But then I started to learn how to play music, and so I was about, I mean, so I really wanted to learn this thing that I would be able to do with other people, because art, like visual art, I mean, is such a solitary practice. Like you can collaborate with people, but it's not in real time. You can't in real time collaborate with people in the way that you can collaborate with and connect with people through music. And so I really wanted to learn music, but at this time I was 23 years old. There would be no way for me to learn music unless I took it seriously, to stop doing this thing that dumbed my senses and numbed me. And so I started to learn to play piano. I started to learn how to sing with an instructor. And I was like, I am wasting my time and money in a lot of ways by not being able to like fully engage myself, because I will be playing the piano. I'm like, wouldn't it be so much better if I was high? And then I would do that, and I would just be terrible. Or I would try to drink and then play the piano. It would just be awful. And there was just like there was no way to like really reconcile how that was helping me. Okay, so then I started to learn to play the piano, and I felt like I needed to, I realized that I needed to stop smoking, and then I tried to stop smoking, and then I couldn't not drink. And that's when I realized, okay, this is actually a problem that extends beyond just one thing. It wasn't like, it's like every time I tried to quit, and I had multiple times where I tried to quit smoking marijuana, I would start drinking a lot. And I mean, a lot. And then I started, so I was like, okay, well, David Foster Wallace, and he's this author that I like a lot, and he talks about going to AA meetings. I was like, well, why not try going to AA and seeing how that is? And so I went to AA, and I was like, okay, so this is how I'm going to get sober, is by connecting with people, which is why I wanted to start learning music, was so I could connect with people on a more like underlying, I guess, spiritual level in a sense. And so since then, I've been sober for a little over a year. I guess I've been sober for about 13 months now. And I am way far ahead from where I could have been. I left that job because when I tried to get sober, the people there were not supportive of it, because I took it as an attack on their lifestyle. So I had to leave. And so I left, and I just started going to AA meetings every day, and it was awesome. Like I mean, I have like some really like positive memories from my extremely early sobriety. And I reattained that like childhood wonder of things for a while, because it just being, if you're just like numbed all the time, and then you go to feeling everything at once, it changes the way you feel and think about things. And that's what I needed. And I've realized that a lot of that wonder, that childhood wonder and amazement, is still possible. It just takes more work. And in that way, it's more rewarding. So let's see. I've continued down the path of sobriety. I try to be accountable for myself, and that's really important. And I don't feel guilty anymore. And that's guilt is not an emotion that I frequently feel. And so I'm not debilitated by it. I'm not debilitated by guilt and shame like I was when I was using and just doing stupid things. And let's see, I'm about to go back to grad school, and that's really great. And uh, I just ran into one of my friends that is also in that grad school, and she's about to graduate, and we both got sober at the same time. And I ran into her tonight, and it was really great. Um, but yeah, so I'm my life is significantly better. I know how to play the clarinet. I know how to play the piano. I'm learning the ukulele. I sing. I'm a bass too. And let's see, I also play the recorder. I mean, and I'm looking. I want to play more instruments. So I mean, uh, yeah, I have the focus. I read. I do all the things that I want to do in a day. It's not a matter of, okay, I can only choose one or two things I can do today, which sometimes days are like that. But I mean, it's not because so much of my life is wasted on expensive, wasteful things that ultimately hurt me and my relationships. So yeah, I'm doing well now, and it's thanks to sobriety. So thank you guys, and thanks for letting me share.